How many of you want to be financially free? And how many of you are actually doing something about it? If you're not focusing on your financial freedom, you might want to reconsider. Check it out. Welcome to the Multi-Loving Model, the channel that shows you how to handle multiple interests, multiple relationships, and multiple approaches to finance. My name is Gerald, and I help people to figure out their way through life, love, and learning in order to customize their happiness. If this is your first time on this channel, welcome. And if you've been here for a while, thank you so much for coming back. I hope this video finds you well. Today we're going to be talking about the topic, why should you care about your financial freedom? First and foremost, I want to make the distinction, right? Financial independence is different from financial freedom. For me, financial independence means that whatever passive income that you bring in, it is exactly able to cover your financial expenses. Financial freedom, on the other hand, is 5 times the amount that you would need for financial independence. So let's say you needed about, I don't know, $2,000 per month in order to survive well. Financial independence would mean that you have passive income coming in that is able to provide at least $2,000 to offset your entire expense. This is when you are financially independent. On the other hand, financial freedom for me means that you are bringing in at least $10,000 in passive income, or more specifically automatic income, because passive income is slightly different from automatic income. I'll give a definition some other video. But the general idea is that for financial freedom, you are achieving at least 5 times the amount of your annual expense. So in this particular case, your monthly expense is $2,000. You should be bringing in at least 5 times that amount, or $10,000 per month, in order to be considered financially free. So you might well say, hey Gerald, I'm already struggling with financial independence. Why should I care about being financially free? I haven't even got an emergency savings fund. Why should I even care about being financially free? And that's a really good question. Now, let me flip it over and ask you, why should you not care about being financially free? Is there any particular good reason for you not to care about financial freedom from the very beginning? So for example, what you could say is, well, if I don't even have a savings, why should I care about what to do with the savings? And that's a fair point. But here's the thing. If you don't have a plan for what you save for, if you have nothing to save for, do you really have a reason to save? If month after month you're just bringing in money, and saving and saving and saving and saving, but you don't know what you're saving for, ultimately it is going to feel very pointless. And when something feels pointless to you, you're not going to keep track of it. You're not going to keep it up. You're not going to struggle. You are not going to make sure that you keep pushing it. And so because of that, your savings will ultimately start lapsing. So if you don't have the end in mind, the process doesn't make sense. So how does this relate back to for your financial freedom? Well, it works like this, right? If you don't focus on financial freedom, are you going to chase that particular goal? If all you're targeting is to save an emergency fund, what's going to happen to everything? Well, the simplest answer basically is that if you are struggling to save an emergency fund, that becomes your story. That becomes your whole story, right? It's about how you manage to accrue your emergency funds, your emergency savings. However, once you've achieved that end of that story, you're going to need to write a new book, right? And that is something that the brain really doesn't want to deal with. So what's going to happen after that is you're going to stall. You're not going to really consider, you're not going to think of it, you are not going to put in the effort. For the majority of people, if they manage to save, that savings is going to get channeled into some new car, into some new building, into some new toy, into some new gadget, into something new, right? Don't know what it is, but you're saving for nothing. And so you spend it on whatever. So on the other hand, if you pick financial freedom or financial independence as your goals, on the other hand, admittedly, maybe this is way too far for you to really plan. Maybe it's not quite possible for you. I don't know, right? I don't know your financial situation, and I'm not a financial advisor. So honestly, whatever it is that I'm sharing with you is not considered legal financial advice. So just take it with a huge amount of salt. So if you have one of these goals, what's going to happen is that even after you finish your emergency savings, you still have a plan. You still have an idea how you want to go forward. You are not going to take that money and dump it onto a car, which I've already mentioned is a bad idea. It's a bad loan in general. It is a debt that you get into which you don't necessarily need. So why would you do that, right? But because you have a plan, you're not going to just spend that money. So for example, if for me, my target is to be financially free and I've managed to save my money, I've managed to get, start channeling the money and whatsoever, I've achieved financial independence, I'm not done yet. So it means that I still have more of a future, I'm still looking forward, I'm still planning and strategizing and making sure that, most importantly, I do not waste my resources. You see, all of us have a finite time on this earth. And of that finite time, there's only a certain portion that you are going to be using to dedicate to work, which is going to bring in that money. So, I actually want to talk a little bit about the value of time, but I think I will actually reserve that in another video. Instead, what I'm going to focus on for this particular video is why even go all the way there. Here's the rub, right? If your only target is to achieve financial independence, what's going to happen is you are going to struggle, you're going to find some ways and means to get there, and then you will stagnate. You will stay at that level because there's nothing else that you want to push forward to. Whereas if you focus on financial freedom as your target, you are going to continue to push past the initial boundary. You're going to continue to try to advance and try to be even better. Let's put it to an analogy, right? So let's say you wanted 60 marks on your test. If your aim was just to pass your exam, you're not aiming for distinction, you're not aiming for honors, you're not aiming for any of the high-flying things, all you needed was just to pass, then you're just going to do enough to pass. You're not going to go above and beyond. You're not going to attempt to get the distinction. You're not going to push yourself and try to achieve as much as you can. That is a similar idea for aiming for financial freedom. And the thing about financial freedom is that, honestly, it's not really that difficult. And I'll get into the reasons why it's not as difficult as you might think. But it suffices to say that if you're only aiming for financial independence, most of us are going to be able to hit that. Most of us can hit financial independence just on luck. Right, assuming that you're coming from the third world, you've got some idea what are some of the financial vehicles and stuff like that, you could actually achieve financial independence without really trying. On the other hand, financial freedom requires you to plan, it requires you to think, it requires you to really look into your life and decide for yourself, how do I want to achieve this in such a way that I can align my life and feel comfortable and justified in doing so. So the way that I actually put it is that if you don't challenge yourself, you're not really going to figure out what makes you great. And the thing about focusing on challenging yourself is that it really forces you to pay attention to your strengths. It is my belief that everybody has certain strengths which are unique to that particular individual. So I have certain strengths, I have certain talents, and when put together, it makes me kind of unique. It makes me kind of special in a way, right? I wouldn't really say I'm special because special is a value that other people assign. The point I'm making is that by having multiple things that I recognize I'm good at, it gives me a special niche in the financial environment that allows me to then dominate that particular niche. I'm still finding that niche, I'm still figuring out, but this, in a sense, is part of the process. While I'm giving you all this value and whatsoever, I'm also helping to clarify my own thought and to develop my own path. And look, I recognize that not everybody is going to become financially free. That is the nature of things, right? Financial independence is a lot easier than financial freedom. It is not unattainable, however. And provided you have enough resources to begin with, you have a possibility of getting there. If, for example, you're 70 years old and you want to be financially free, you do not have much chance, honestly. I'm not saying it's impossible. Colonel Sanders achieved that. But statistically speaking, because you don't have a lot of resources to start with, either financial or chronological, right? Time. You don't have time, you don't have money, you don't have a network, you don't have a lot of these things happening for you, you don't have a lot of that. It's going to be difficult for you to achieve financial freedom at a later stage. If, on the other hand, you had a lot of resources, so even if you're 60 years old, even if you're 70 years old as well, if you had a lot of money already, you can figure out how to turn that money into something that just automatically generates income for you. Now, to be frank, most of us are not financially well-to-do. For the majority of us, and especially for those of you who are listening to this, right? I'm speaking to you guys who are like perhaps 30 or younger, perhaps 40 still. You might still have a shot. What you have is time. And this is something that I have to come to terms with as well. I personally don't feel like I have a lot of time. I've kind of squandered my 20s away. I'm just starting my 30s and I just barely even have a foothold. It is kind of for my own benefit that I also mention this, because if I don't speak it out, I just don't quite process it. I don't know why it is. I have time. Not a lot, but I have time. I'm 32 this year, and if all goes well, I should be able to work for another 30 years or so. 30 years is sufficient time to build that capital. It's sufficient to develop the financial freedom that I'm targeting. It's possible, it's doable, but it requires me to have a plan. And that is the critical reason why you need to care about your own financial freedom as well. Because then you have to plan the rest of your entire life. So what do you think? Do you agree that we should focus on financial freedom? Financial freedom being that you are earning 5 times your annual expenses in automatic income. Let me know down in the comment sections below. And hey, if you have a financial plan as well that allows you to become financially free, feel free to also comment down in the comment sections below. Let us know, right? We could learn something from you. And if you'd like to know more about how to handle multiple interests, multiple relationships, and multiple approaches to finance, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want, you can also hit that notification bell. My name is Gerald, and this is Multi Loving Model. Be happy in diversity. Cheers.